Is that up? Can you hear that? Hear that? Okay, there we go. Is everyone's microphone working okay?
Testing, testing.
Okay.
We do a pledge.
All right.
Yeah. We do a pledge.
All right.
Yeah, pledge and
Yeah.
If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Rich, would you please lead us?
yes. Please join me putting your hands over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
We wish to thank you all for coming. I know we're all interested in this, and it's quite a thing to see this many people arrive. To start off, I want everyone to know that we're not just declaring this. It's a state mandate, and it's our position to try to succeed, and we will succeed at 36% reduction. It's a horrible amount, but that's what we've been tasked to do. There's not much we can do as far as bringing water in. I mean, we have water in the lake now. We did our part to bring water in, and the water is in the lake. We purchased it, but we can't use it. We just can't use it. The state won't let us. At this time, I would like to introduce the board, and to my far left is Woody Rickerell. Next to me is Rich Fresky. I'm Larry Ferris. This is Frank Bryant and Jerry Haight. And our legal counsel is Joel Cooperberg, and Jerry Vilander is our general manager. Jerry, could you say a few words?
Yes. First off, I want to say one thing. The battery just went dead on this thing, this god-awful thing that I was going to give the presentation on. So what we're going to do is probably the first 2 or 3 slides, we're going to go off this paperwork, okay? Because I'm waiting on the cord to come in so we can plug this contraption back in and actually have the presentation. So, okay? So that's the problem with electronics. Can everyone hear me all right? Okay, great. So first off, I want to reiterate what our president had just mentioned. Okay. Larry Ferris he's dedicated to making sure that we're going to make that we actually achieve the 36% reduction. And I know that everyone here is sort of fearful and afraid. How are they going to do that? Okay. But let's just go into a little bit of a background. On May 5th, the governor mandated that Serrano Water District, among many other agencies, achieve 36% reductions. We're not the only one. Okay. The state came up with an equation, okay, based on the gallons per capita per day that here the Serrano Water District, or the residents here, are using. And we know that most of it is used outside, right? Has everyone here been watching the news? Please. Yes. And so there's no denying that. You know, we have a lifestyle here that we like to maintain, and we understand that. But we also understand now the state has mandated this 36% reduction, and if we do not do this, do not comply, it will be a $10,000 per day penalty that the district, the water district, will face if we will not achieve that. You can't hear that out there at all? Well, not outside, you can't. You can't hear it outside.
Do you have speakers?
No. There's no speakers outside.
There are none available.
There's none available outside.
We tried.
We tried. So let me go to this next slide.
You gotta talk louder, Chair.
I will. So what happened was on April 14th of this month, or this last month, the board of directors knew that there was something that we had to do, because on April 1st, when Governor Brown said and just basically declared, I would say, essentially war as far as water goes, to ensure that the state does not run out of water, that the state across the board had to reduce water consumption. Okay, and so then our board of directors on April 14th moved our ordinance level 1 to level 2. Level 1 was pretty loose. We allowed 3 days per week watering, and we just let kind of people voluntarily try to reduce consumption. It didn't happen. It didn't happen across the state. Okay, that's why the state mandated across the board reductions. So when our board went ahead and moved to level 2, we had to move to outdoor watering limited to 2 days a week, which I know a lot of people there's no other way we can do it. I know we can do it. I know we can do 2 days a week watering. The limits on watering are between, you're not allowed to water from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. 2 days a week. Okay, 15 minutes per station. And if you're letting the water spray onto the asphalt, spray into the gutter, spray anywhere not on actual turf or your plants, it's considered wasting, okay? So it's prohibited. Do not let any of your water get into the street, roll down the street. It's just throwing money away, and it's actually considered wasting. And the state really is that one of the things they're really going to be looking at the most is if anyone comes down through here and sees water rolling down the street and we're not finding people or doing something to prevent that, they will consider that we are not doing our job. Okay? So we have to make sure that we do not let any water go onto any hard surface at all. And I think it's one of the things we know we should not be washing our driveways down, right? I think that would be one of the kind of the obvious things at this point. We don't want to wash our driveways down. Can I speak? Do you want me to go over there? Are you going to try that?
Why not?
Yeah, why don't we have a few people? Let's try to have 10 or 15 people sit along the bottom here. Let's try to fit some more people in here.
They can have my chair.
Just stand in the middle of the room.
Come on over here. Sit down. Go ahead. Hey. You can come. You want to sit on the floor? Come on up here. Yeah.
One other thing that I think I think this might help a lot of people. That right now this is live on Channel 3, and it's live on Channel 99 if you have Uverse, and it's being streamed live via web. So I'm sure everyone would love to be here, but it is on TV, and it is.
The webcast isn't working right now.
The webcast isn't working, but it is on TV though. So
We're here, so
let's get some more people in here. Come on, we can do this.
We tried to get speakers outside, but they don't have them. There are no speakers available. Huh? Really?
And the drunk.
Maybe we ought to go over there.
We can get a couple more people in here. I'm going to give you a second while I can drink some water.
Come on up there. You can have my seat. I'll sit back there.
You got most of them, man. We can slide down one way.
Okay, I think we have almost everyone that was outside in here. How many more people we have outside? About 5? All right, we're pretty close to getting them all in here. We're making this happen. All right, so now let's continue on with the presentation. So if you have a leak, we give you 48 hours, but reasonably speaking, get it repaired immediately. Okay, and if you do have a leak that's blowing out down the street, we have an obligation to shut the water off if you have something that bad, and I don't think you want to have your water running that bad anyway. And I think the next one has been sort of one of those contentious ones. Refilling your pool. it's not a problem to supplement your pool if you have a pool. If you have a pool and you have water in it because it's full and it's evaporating, you can replenish your pool with the, whatever you're evaporating, you can replenish that. But if you're going to do a replastering job on your pool right now, and if it's, it can wait until after the drought, okay? Wait until after the drought. And I hear people laughing because it's sort of an obvious thing, I think, right? So it's, and I think you're willing to wait until after the drought to replaster your pool. And when is that drought going to be over? I don't know that. So, and then also if you have a pond or a decorative feature, you cannot replenish it with potable water. If you have a koi pond, fine, no problem. You have life in there. If you have an aquarium, etc., that's fine.
So far, so good. What if you're building a new pool?
Now, what's that?
What if you're building a new pool? What if you're in the middle of it?
Okay, if you're in the middle of a new pool, here's the scenario. You have until July 1st to fill that pool up. If you didn't, you have to complete that pool and fill it up till June 1st, June 1st. Wow, that woo, June 1st. June 1st. Now here's what happens if you somehow that thing goes a little bit over into July, August, September. Is that if you fill it with water, and remember your baseline is going to be reduced 36%, which we'll get into that in a few minutes. Is that whatever you fill that over, and you didn't fill your pool in 2013, that water now you're using to fill the pool today is going to send you into extreme penalty rates, and that's the penalty of it. Okay? I mean, are we going to go out and slap you a fine for filling the pool? No, the penalty will be in the penalty rate. You have to make that economic decision.
Is the baseline 2013 or 14?
We'll get into it's 2013 usage for that particular month, and we'll get into the questions in a minute. I want to go ahead and get through this, and we can ask those questions later. Okay? And then if you go to rock wells, you have to ask for water. Okay? They're not going to have it sitting there on the table for you. And now what I'm going to do, and I don't still see my plug coming here to plug this computer in, but Harvey, did you have the copy of the presentation?
Yeah.
I can get you one right here.
Yeah.
So we have Harvey De La Torre. Is that pronouncing your last name properly?
Right.
Okay, from Metropolitan Water District, who is going to go into a little scenario what's going on with Metropolitan, how Metropolitan affects the water we get here at Serrano Water District.
Well, thank you for everyone showing up. I have to admit that I am astonishingly impressed with the participation that everyone is here. I also want to say that I am just kind of excited, but at the same time, I wish it was under better circumstances that you are all here to hear exactly about some of the conditions that we're all facing. Jerry mentioned that my name is Harvey De La Torre. I work at the Municipal Water District of Orange County. We are the wholesale entity that provides imported water to all of Orange County. My job is the kind of Director of Water Resources. I, in essence, represent all of you to ensure that we get the proper amount of water to withstand us within the future. Unfortunately, we're facing some conditions that are a little bit out of our control, as your board members have indicated. Your board has done a fabulous job of making sure that they have the supplies that you need to meet the future demands. Unfortunately, the state is not in the same position as what you guys have done here. I could give you probably a 20 to 30-minute presentation talking about how conditions have changed in the last 4 years. We're in a 4th consecutive drought. What that means is that supplies have not been able to meet the demands of the state simply because of weather, the bounce back of the economy, and simply, not necessarily here, but because people have not taken the consideration that all of you have, which is conserving water. In addition, what we've seen and I'll just give you a little bit of facts, that 2013 was considered the driest year on record. 2014 was considered the hottest year on record. And 2015 is basically going to result in the least snowpack, or the least snowpack we have seen in probably over 100 years. That is saying that conditions statewide have resulted basically in saying that we have to prepare for another drought. And conditions have resulted in the state requiring all water agencies in the entire state of California to reduce demands. This board has done a fabulous job, and I have worked with many water agencies to ensure that you have enough supply. But that's not what the governor's asking for. He's asking for a reduction in demand. Your board, as well as general manager here, has gone to the state and said that we have done a great job in making sure we have enough water. That's not what the governor is asking for. He is concerned about reducing demand overall. They're managing supplies, and like I said, they've done that for you. But that's out of their control now. And so now we have to look at managing demand. Okay? The slide that we're talking about here is simply that the imported water that most of us receive, that basically is put into Irvine Lake, is being curtailed. And from my standpoint, my job is to ensure that we have enough water for all of Orange County. And the curtailment on the imported side is only to manage our storage and our conditions. But the governor is asking for a reduction in demand. He's asking for every resident to do what its part is to basically meet the requirements that they have illustrated to you by the State Control Board of meeting a 36% reduction. It's unfortunate because I know each and one of you have done some part in that sense, but they're asking for more. And in Orange County, we can talk about all different situations from use of recycled water to even the exploration of ocean desal, but I just can't tell you that is not what the state is looking at. They are dealing with a crisis and they need immediate action now. So we can debate back and forth upon how we got here. We can talk about all the efforts you've made, but there's action that's required now, and what Jerry's outlining is how we can meet that. And it's not going to be easy by any means. We have done our part in trying to talk to the state board, trying to talk to the governor's office to basically make sure that you can manage through this, but this is what they're asking for. And it's already been decided. So now what we have to do is figure out how we move forward. What measures and activities that you all can do, not only within your residency, but also with your neighbors and others, to do this together, to implement the necessary actions to achieve this within the 9 months that they're asking for. Okay? Is there anything else, Jerry, you would like me to add? I mean, I'm happy to go into further detail, but I think the question, yes?
Yeah, I have a question. A couple of years ago, we passed a bond measure overwhelmingly for more water storage. What's the state done about that?
Yes, a couple of years ago, the people of California passed bond measure A that had, I think I want to say close to $9 or $10 billion worth of money in trying to carry a number of areas from infrastructure improvements to storage and all those components. That takes time. Unfortunately, water is a very long process. Efforts are being made to basically try to improve actions, but that takes time. And we're, well, I'll say that we're trying to improve storage in certain locations of the state. We are trying to, and you make a great point on the environmental side, that we are trying to create basically to improve the Bay Delta, which is receiving most of the water from Northern California. But again, there's a conservation plan that the governor has altered to ensure that basically we try to improve the water that we have been losing due to fishery restrictions and other regulations, other environmental regulations. They're also throwing additional funds to improve recycled water. There's also additional funds to look at ocean desal. But again, all those things took time. And that's a great point that we are starting to put more money. You're starting to see that Metropolitan as well as Orange County, we are providing funds for removing your turf. We're doing a lot of components of that, but the action that's required right now is within the next 9 months. And we could talk about funds, but that takes time to develop sources. We don't have the water because Mother Nature didn't give it to us for the last 4 years. So we have to take action now. We could talk about improving supplies, and we've been doing that. In fact, in Orange County, we've basically have over 100,000 acre feet that we've developed to recycle water, but that's still not enough, okay, to get us through what the governor's asking us.
Instead of watering twice a week, 15 minutes, can I water 7 minutes 4 times?
Okay, what we're going to do now is, I'll tell you what, hold on to that question. All right,
Well,
now
before
that we...
you move on, I have a question. How much of the water that MWD has is from California? Because most of your water comes from outside, right?
The two areas that Metropolitan, which is basically the service areas from Ventura all the way to the Mexican border, that Metropolitan has, receives two sources, basically. Metropolitan provide the imported side.
Right.
Is from Northern California, which is roughly between 60 to 65%, and the Colorado River, which prints over there. Now, both are under major stress conditions, meaning that Northern California, like I said, receive basically, they're right now at 3% of what they normally receive of snowpack. Okay? We're receiving basically less than a quarter of what we normally receive from Northern California this year. And again, we're dealing with 4 years of consecutive droughts. On Lake Mead, which is the Colorado River side, it's dealing with a 14-year consecutive dry period. And that you're going to see in the newspapers very soon, probably next month, where it's going to reach its lowest level that we've seen since they first filled it up. So again, I cannot stress enough, it is a state of emergency. These conditions that we're facing right now are unprecedented. And in addition, what these actions that are required have to be done. There's just no way around it. The question that we have is, how do we get that done in the most efficient and effective way possible?
Okay, what I'm going to do now is, any other questions for Harvey? We'll leave till after the presentation. So what I'll do is I'll continue on with the presentation. Now we actually have the slideshow here on screen. So now we need to get into what impact is this reduction, possibly at 36%, that we expect we're going to achieve, going to have on the operating cost of the district. Right now, our current rate and our operation, we have a $32.21 fixed rate and a $3.01 commodity rate. And our current amended budget revenue is $5.7 million, and our current amended budget expenses are $6.3 million. That's great, but then the state mandates 36% water reduction. Okay, and then we expect to have these reductions going on actually in May, even though we're expecting to start you guys up in June, but people have actually already responded, by the way, and I just want to actually applaud something. This is unofficial. I have to do my reports to the state on the 15th, but we've already had a 17% reduction, folks. I applaud y'all for the month of April. That's fantastic. So what you guys are doing now, and if that was a response to our, mid-May mail out, you guys are doing a great job already. Okay, so keep that up. And you know who you are who are doing it too. So, okay, I do want to say that's great. But that does have also the impact of the budget, right? Because when we first started our budget, we didn't know we were going to have to do a 36% reduction. Okay, so then the state mandates this. Now we're going to have an impact of the budget.
Take questions.
And we're going to take questions. We're going to get through this whole presentation, then we have the speaker, the questions cards, and we'll pull those and we'll do the questions as we're going along. Because I think everyone wants to get through this quickly. So what does that mean? See, here's the thing. We already, with the reductions that we anticipate by the end of this fiscal year, expect a $600,000 deficit. That's approximate, all right, folks? I mean, it could be right now it's about 520, but our initial estimate was 600,000. We didn't have the reductions we expected in April. 17% is all we achieved. So now we expect in 2015-16, and we don't have the number up here, that the deficit could be close to $950,000 with these reductions in revenues. And we anticipate, if there is to be a rate increase down the road, if there is, it would be somewhere around $3.75 a unit in order to recover that loss.
That increase or
That would be the total. That would be the cost of the water compared to the 301 per unit charge. That's not how much more we would increase it. No, I don't think any of us would be standing here right now today if that was how much it was. So, okay, now is where the complicated part comes. This is essentially what it is here is a proposed penalty fee structure. Okay, now all of you have, I think most of you have some handouts. This is pretty hard to read up here on the board. But first and foremost, what we wanted to do is we did research on the best and most fair way to do this, okay? This isn't an arbitrary, methodology. There is so many different ways to do water rate structures. There are tiered rates, there's inclining block rates, there are a myriad of other ways to do rate structures. But this is what the board told me to pursue, is to find the fairest structure that would not zap, I guess a better choice of words, or hit someone, the smaller users, tremendously if they were to go slightly over their new adjusted baseline. Okay, and so this way, the small user was going to have a $250 fine because they went over or penalty because they went over. It's going to be a lot more fair for the lower user, and then ultimately the most higher user, it would, hit them fairly, I guess. Depends on who it is, perception-wise. So now let me try to explain how this works. If you were to, well, I think we actually should jump one slide and then go back, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to take the 2013 usage that you have each month, okay? And what we're going to do is reduce that by 36%. And that will be your new adjusted baseline for each month, okay? And what we'll do with that is we will normalize that data to make it daily. Because what it is that, each year you don't have a perfect amount of days within the reading period. Some days are 20, some months are 25, some are 31, some are 33. So how do you compare one month that's 33 days? There's no such thing as a 33-day month, is there? So we have to normalize that data by taking the usage for that month period divided by the days that are actually within that read period. And that gets your normalized usage per day, okay? And we will actually display that on a mail out for each month, and this will be your new guideline that you want to follow so you can understand how to daily manage your water. Okay, you can do the multiplication on the month. So now let me go back to the slide prior.
Jerry, I think it's important for everyone to know that 2013 number we're using is what this... Hello? Yeah, I think everyone needs to understand that 2013 baseline number we're using is what the state mandated. That's not Serrano saying we're going to use 2013 numbers. The state mandates that date and those months during that year.
Yes. And we can go into later how the state came up with their calculations, but it's somewhat arbitrary. It's a hard one for me to try to explain something that no one here agrees with the way they came up with it, all right? And we're all going to be in that same boat here. No one's going to agree to how they came up with it. So we can all agree to that. We're just doing what they're telling us to do now. So what we did here is, if you look, and this is going to be very hard to read here. If you all have your sheets. You all have your sheets? Okay, well, let's get this up to here. So what we are doing here is we are taking, and I'll use this example of what I call the person who really wants to comply and do exactly the 36% reduction. And this would be the lower chart. So I'm starting on the bottom. Okay, so what we're going to do is you have your meter charge and you have your rate. And then we have your adjusted baseline. And if you were let's say you were a 32, excuse me, if you're a 32 unit user for the month of June in 2013, your new adjusted baseline would be 20 units. Okay, so then, well, you decide, hey, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do 20 units. Great. Your bill's going to be $78 and change, and you had 0% over baseline. All right, so then there's no penalty, and it just goes and you're fine. Your bill's going to be $78. Now let's say, I'm going to go a little bit over, and in 2013, you're 60 units of water. Your new adjusted baseline is 38. And by the way, if you use a calculator, it's not going to look exactly like that because this is Excel, and I just rounded up or down to the nearest number. So please put your calculators away. And so now, 42 units you decide to use instead of, which means it's 10% over the baseline. Okay, so now your bill is $144. Well, what we do is we take that 10% over the baseline and multiply that by your bill. Okay, which then equals $14, but then we use a multiplier of 1.5, and then your total penalty is $21.65 with a grand total, because we add that number to your new monthly bill for a grand total of $165 and change. It's not a tremendous hit if you go a little bit over. I'm not going to go into the 20% one and explain that because I think you can all get the point that it's just, twice that. But then if you're the type of person that says, I'm going to use exactly what I did in 2013, I am not going to reduce 1 gallon. I'm bound and determined. I have to do what I have to do, and this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do exactly what I did. So what it is that here is 35 units is your usage in 2013. The baseline is 22. I'm using 35, by God. And there's your bill of $122.34. It's 0.56 it's 56% over your baseline. And then what it is it's then that calculation comes out to $68.51 with a 1.5 multiplier. The penalty is $102 and change. Add it to the bill, and you have a $225 water bill. And that's essentially what it is. You think, and some people, that's not fair. I'm telling you, some of the people some of the water districts, I've seen some of the ways they're going to do it. If you go 5% over the baseline, if you go 1%, you fall into the 0 to 5% range. You have no chance. You just fall right into a penalty box. Here, for each percent over, you get a slightly increasing charge rather than fall into a huge penalty box. You have room for error here. You have a chance to not be just pummeled right into a huge penalty box, and it gives you a chance to perform and cut back. Does that make sense? I mean, this is a tough one. If you want me to go through this again, does it make sense? Some people think this is one of the most complicated things they've seen, but it's the fairest I've seen. That's a good question for right now. Every month is its own month. This doesn't go into the next month. You're going to keep getting this penalty. You start over again, and you get time to perform again. It's not a penalty that keeps going and going and going. You get a chance to say, all right, I'm going to perform. I'm going to go and I'm going to cut back. And it is cumulative too. For us as a district, we need to have 36% reduction cumulative for the year. So if people don't perform in June, and if we only get 17% reduction, we are way in the hole. We're big time in the hole, and we need to make up for it big. Okay? So we really want people to perform. I will go through this one more time if someone wanted me to go through this. No, we're going to hold up on the questions now until the end of the presentation. Okay? Okay, so now I'll explain that. So how are we going to let people know, how they're going to perform? We're going to send out a mailing scheduled, probably a week before June 1st, because June 1st is when you need to start really cutting back. And it's a good time to cut back because usually we have mild weather here in California, in Southern California in June. So it gives your landscape and your lawns a chance to get a little deeper in their rooting. Okay. So you'll get that information. So you'll receive this reminder also on your monthly statements telling you ahead of time 1 month what your next month will need to be. Okay, so if you forgot or you didn't put it on your refrigerator or something like that, you'll have that. And there will be consideration for those residents who just moved in. Okay, and how that formula will work is it will be the average consumption for that month for residents minus 36%. So, and then if you have home renovation and stuff like that, you need to come in the district and we need to talk about that. And we'll see what we can do. Now, for those folks who say, I don't even know what my meter looks like. I've never went out and looked at it. Now's the time you may want to become acquainted with your meter. So we have on here is a way to read your meter. And so number one is the low flow indicator. You really want to look at this occasionally, even if we weren't in a drought. You can go out and see if this thing's moving and you think everything's off in your house. You might have a leak because you think something was off, but this is showing that it was moving. Number two, we can go back. So number one is this little triangle. It'll usually be spinning. Actually, it's backwards. It goes backwards, like in a counterclockwise position. Okay, whoops, what happened? So now I'll go back to explain number two. Oh, what happened? Is this? Uh-oh. Give me a second, folks. What happened? Is it up there? There we go. So number two, if number two goes around one time, I apologize. If number two goes around one full revolution, that's 7.5 gallons. So if you were to have a Homer bucket, those orange buckets from Home Depot, you could fill it up 1.5 times with that going around. That's 7.5 gallons. 5 gallons and then 2.5 gallons. Number three means that for every 100 times that dial goes around, that number will increase by 1. That's 748 gallons. So I just explained to you how to do this. I don't need to go through this slide. So what are we trying to do to help everyone out here? We have really taken this seriously. We don't want anyone to go into penalties. We really did not like hearing what we heard from the Governor Brown, but we have to do it. So how are we going to help you? We hired a full-time person who will, per your request, if you are not confident with your sprinkler timer and are not technically savvy or just don't want to deal with it, call us up. Steve Sweeney will go out, or we have another gentleman as well, Anthony Zaragoza, who will go out and help you reprogram your sprinkler timer to 2 days a week and get it to where you can get your 15 minutes per station for 2 times a week. So this way, your lawn will do fine. Okay, some people, I have to have 5 days a week watering. Your lawn will do fine with 2 days a week. It may be a little bit at first to take that, but it's, if you ask a horticulturist or someone who really knows plantings, they can tell you can do 2 days a week. You need to train your grass. Okay, you need to train your grass. It can do it, and all the board members here have already taken advantage of, and there's one more we're going to go out to that they have taken advantage of this service because it's available to everybody, okay, and it's working, and if you do it for 10 minutes per station and it looks up at 12 minutes, okay, I prefer you to do the 3-minute intervals that you've seen on that brochure that we sent out to you a few weeks ago. That's the way to go, because again, no runoff. Even if you're 2 days a week and you're letting water run off, why would you do that? That is wasting water. That's water right down, not down the drain, it's down the gutter, okay, and going right across someone else's front property. And also, he'll help you out with if you guys want to take advantage of any of the rebates, if you want to put in, by the way, you don't have to put in artificial turf if you do the rebate program for the turf removal. The rebate says turf removal, doesn't say putting in artificial turf. So the default is not artificial turf. The default is just removing your turf and selecting something you like that is an alternative. Okay? And he can help you out with getting those rebates going, okay? And we have more information on how to contact the office. You can call us up. We'll go out. We're here to help you guys. We do not want anyone to go into these penalty rates. We really don't. Okay? So now, do we have those speaker cards? We're not going to do any hand raising yet. If you want to speak, fill a card out. Well, people. And here what we can do is we can hand some cards out as I'm going through these questions. So if someone hand me a card. One card. Let's get one card. You got a card? There you go. And so what you can do is I am going to move this lectern to face the board, or just turn it around. I can face the board, and you can go ahead and ask your questions. Microphone. I'll tell you what. Can you handle that thing?
My name Mike.
Your name's Mike.
Just 2 questions on the penalty fee structure. By the way, I think the chart is great. It's very self-explanatory and it works great. You list under baseline, you list units. How much is a unit? Is it 100 cubic feet? Is it 1 cubic foot?
100 cubic feet.
100 cubic feet, 748 gallons. Okay, the second question is under rate here under your chart, you have $3.01. It looks like it's going up to 3.75. Which one should we use on this chart? 3.75. So that should be 3.75 then, right?
The rate is 301.
Current rate is 301.
Yeah, what it is that there's no rate increase, folks. All this is the penalty rate.
No,
so the 3.75 that we put in another chart was in the event that we need to do a rate increase. And if you are going to get the board proposes to do a rate increase, they're going to notify you 45 days in advance for a public hearing per Prop 218.
But that's where that rate increase would go.
Yeah.
It would. In other words, if whatever rate increase we would end up having it would replace that 301. Let's have another speaker card. We don't have names on these. Okay, here we go. Some cities, districts are requiring cuts of 28 and 19%. Why Serrano Water District? The complication of the state equation. Okay. What it is that the state board up in Sacramento, and you're the one who asked the question? Oh. So the state board was about a little over a month ago, and you saw in the newspaper when it was 35% for Serrano, right? Did everyone see that first? We thought it was 35%. Well, they had worked up essentially a tiered system that was on the lowest per capita per day, which is essentially someone with no lot or a condominium complex, right? Okay, or a city like Seal Beach. We have to be reasonable. And, they have Leisure World. They have 6,500 services. They have as many water services in Leisure World as you do here. Actually, 4 times the amount of water service connections at Leisure World than you do here in Villa Park. And so those residents in there who use very little water in the house, probably normal water in the house, with very little water outside, right? That brings that gallons per capita per day way down. And so the state, in their equation, says the lowest per capita that consumption reported is the beginning of their equation. And then they start ratcheting it up. And you'll see some districts are 25%, some are 28%, some are 30%. We get the privilege of being 36%. Beverly Hills is 36%, Yorba Linda is 36%, Golden State Water or Cowan Heights is 36%, and what does that tell you? Big lots, and etc. And I was up at the Capitol last week, okay, and when they had that public hearing before they adopted, and my cohorts that came out of that public hearing said they did listen to nothing because they actually, not Golden State Water, Yorba Linda, they have fire areas right along the Cleveland National Forest. They argued that people needed the water along that line for a fire line. The lady said, and you know the lady's name, and I'm not going to say it here because everyone's heard it on these Ken and John shows and all that, right? That I don't care. I don't want to hear the sniveling. Just do your 36%, and that's it. Yeah, it was just a blatant. Is that an over exaggeration or? So that's bottom line is that if we reduce you down, then we're gonna have to bring other people up and all. They just did not want to hear any excuses.
The simple answer is we have big lots. That's the simple answer. We use a lot of water per household because we have big lots. If you live in Santa Ana, I think they're a 20% reduction. They have small lots, and that's why we're getting hit with the 36%. And apartments. A lot of the cities have apartments, which bring their average down. But that's the simple answer, is that we just have large lots.
Yeah, I gave the long answer. So, Deanna, you have a question. Do you want to come on up here? By the way, is everyone having a good time up in here right now?
The largest land occupant in the city of Villa Park is Orange Unified School District. Under the calculations that we have, they use 6% of our total water, approximately. As of right now, they haven't reduced. And at their recent meeting, which was May 7th, they had a water conservation report saying that maybe they could save some water, which was 25%, but they didn't make any decisions how to do it. So how are we not going to get penalized for them not reducing their water, and are they required to reduce their water?
Why doesn't this work?
Go ahead.
There.
Yes, 36%. The school's not exempt from this. No exception. This is every single user here is getting a notice. 36%. How they do it, they're gonna have to figure it out.
Let me just qualify that though, just so that no one's surprised. The school district will get the same notice, and is being told by the water district that it has the same obligation to reduce 36%. The way California law works, however, we can send the school district a bill with the penalties that Jerry showed you, but if the water district doesn't pay it, we've got very limited ability to enforce that because they're a separate governmental entity. And so I guess the simple answer is that, you know, we will attempt to talk with the school district. If you know school board members, encourage them to be good neighbors and to take the same responsibility that all of you will have to take, and that we expect, and that we know that all of you will, because this is a common problem that needs to be solved by all of us. No, the question is whether we can cut off the water to the schools. They've got lots of kids there. I know, and I know this is frustrating because I know a lot of people are making significant sacrifices to comply with this statewide problem. We can't realistically cut off the water to schools while they're full of kids. And that would be a public health and safety problem to all of the kids that are there, some of whom are probably your kids.
Okay. Okay, so we have Joe Zarola. Is it Zarola? And his question is for MODOC Harvey, the turf rebates program, and he has some questions. Where's Joe? No, I know, but where's Joe at? He might have some more questions, a little bit more of that.
Harvey, the question I have is that I became aware of this turf rebate program, and then I'm told, yeah, go ahead and file for it. And your website today says that you've committed all your resources to it, and now we have to wait till the 26th of the month to see if any additional funding is available. The second part of that question is, then I'm told it takes 2 months before it's even approved. So in the effort to do what we can to remove turf, now our hands are tied, we're choked, we have to wait for 2 months, if even in fact the money is available.
Thank you for that question. He's referring to the turf removal program. Basically, it's an incentive program that simply provides funding to remove your turf, your lawn, or replace it with California Friendly or something of that. Yesterday, the Metropolitan Board, which provides the funding, had to make a decision upon adding more funds to that program. Earlier in the year, beginning of the fiscal year, Metropolitan budgeted $20 million. 3 or 4 months later, we added $80 million to a total of $100 million. We are spending for all of Southern California, because the applications are so high, the number of applications we are receiving is basically quadrupled since the governor announced it. The amount of money that the Metropolitan Board is planning to approve in 2 weeks that you're quoting is another $150 million. $250 million is going to this program alone, and we anticipate all of that money going to be gone within probably 2 or 3 months. They are receiving so many applications. In Orange County alone, we're receiving close to 80 to 90 per day. So to administer that, to go through the process of certifying and go through that, based on the number of applications that we've seen, which is quadrupled within this month alone, is going to require a little bit of time. We are hiring resources. We are doing what's necessary to ensure that we can get that to you. But the time frame that we are offering you is a time frame that we realistically can achieve and be able to provide that to you. I sympathize you, but you are the same as every single person in Southern California to ensure that we provide you with the proper funding to do what you need to do. But we cannot give you a realistic number unless it falls within the time frame that's illustrated, meaning that I'm not going to tell you we can turn it out within 1 day. We have to give you a realistic time frame because, like I said, within the matter of 30 days, we have quadrupled the amount of applications we're receiving and the amount of funding that we need to approve. And $150 million is not just sitting there. It is your tax dollars that the board seriously has to consider to ensure that it's maximizing the efforts that it's doing. We don't take this lightly, and that's kind of what's going on right now.
I have a question for MWD. The state's mandating this reduction. Is the state putting any funds into turf removal?
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you for that. In fact, the last 2 days, we have been lobbying the governor's office and the state to provide additional funds for this program. And we know that the governor is going to have a budget revise. We are hoping, and we're getting strong indicators that he's hopefully going to provide some additional funds for that. I can't tell you how much, but what I am hearing is positive vibes that hopefully it can be, you know, probably in the range that we're spending, hopefully, in Southern California. But I don't know exactly what that final number is going to be. Yes, sir. No, in fact, we are hiring, on the process of hiring 3 to 4 people just within our district to administer the number of applications we're receiving. Yes. I think all the cities are hiring full-time conservation staff to provide assistance, but also provide assistance in the application process. Absolutely, yes.
I want to tail off that a little bit. That's one of the reasons why we did promote Steve to this position, is because we do want to help along. But we do have to be reasonable. It's just, you know, the fact that we'll go out and help along, there still is the, you know, the process. You know, we're saving probably like 3 or 4 days by him helping along, but there is still, you know, there's so many applications going on, okay? And I just want to coattail on the rebate program. I know we want to reduce this 36%, but I don't think the rebate program is ultimately the solution to, or et cetera. It's a great incentive, okay? But right now, I think that people can have decent landscapes still here in Villa Park if we do a little bit of adjustments on the sprinklers instead of, because I know that there's some people in here that water 2 days a week already and have great looking landscapes. They probably don't want to admit to it right now, but I know it's the case. My neighbor waters 2 days a week, and he has the most beautiful lawn in the neighborhood. Okay, because he's been doing that ever since he established his lawn. He has his lawn trained and etc. Okay, but before we get, there's more into that, but the rebate's going to take time, you know, and you need to go ahead and do this response now. And I do understand your concern, and that's why we have Steve to help with that, and also help with your sprinkler timers and help you reduce your runoff, like eliminate your runoff if you can. Okay. Dowling, is it Ty?
I feel like the penalty structure sort of penalized ultra low user, because my family is pretty proactive in conserving. So what we did is when we remodel our house, we actually we took out the swimming pool. We already took out our lawn, and we have a water saving toilet. So the primary water that we're using now is pretty much for washing dishes, washing clothes, and taking showers. So by taking another 35% reduction, we probably take less showers. So because our average bill right now is like $40 a month. So to you, $78 is low, and we are ultra low. So I think we are fairly unfairly penalized for this.
That ultimately will be taken into consideration. Okay, the board is gonna discuss and make sure we don't penalize the folks that are what we call the ultra low users. Okay. Want to appeal which part? This whole deal?
Jerry?
I'm sorry, say that again?
At the last board meeting, the board approved the fact, or talked about the fact that 10 units or less is what it takes to survive in a household in Villa Park. So if you have 10 units or less, there won't be a penalty. You don't need to reduce below 10 units. So that should take care of the low-end users. One of the things I think people lose sight of the fact is Villa Park, this water district for years, has basically been subsidized by the ratepayers The high-end use ratepayers are the ones that have subsidized the district. Now they're the ones that are going to take the brunt of this, to have to reduce their water down. And the more we reduce down, the higher the rates are going to go. So if you wind up taking out all your turf now, and everyone did that, the rates would go way up. So there's a fine line before you start just yanking everything out. And like Jerry said, if you can get by with the 2 days a week and the 30 minutes total for the week on the watering, that's the way to go, because hopefully we won't have this situation next year. We're fortunate enough as a district that we have inflow into the lake that we can use when we get a lot of rain. The last couple of years we haven't had any rain. The district's had to buy water, which has helped us, hasn't helped, it has hurt us on our water rates. If we would have been having water these years, we really wouldn't be in this situation now. So hopefully in the next year we'll get some water. But to be frank with everyone, if we have another year like this year, this 36% is going to be worse than that. I mean, that's the reality of it. There just isn't any water in California. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's the way it is.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Paul Kwong.
No, wait a second. What's not true? What's not true? That's available. That's available for residential users. We can't do that. We can't do it.
All right.
We can't. It's not you people. This isn't. This district has no way to find new sources of water. I mean, if we have another year of drought, we'll look like Phoenix, Arizona. That's what it's going to boil down to.
All right. All right, next question.
Jerry, thank you. Gentlemen of the board, my name is Paul Kwong. I'd like to talk to the people here in Villa Park. What I did back in 2013, I put in artificial turf in my lawn up front and had the best looking lawn in the neighborhood. But not only that you get a rebate back from the water district, and we also got our lawn put in, and it costs about $8 a foot, less $2 a foot that we get from the water district. Well, it also reduced my maintenance on the lawn by $50 a month, and it reduced my water bill from $200.77 down to 2014, the same month, to $50.37. So you can go ahead and put in artificial turf, and we can save a lot of water doing that. And if anybody wants to come by and look up my lawn, I only charge you $1. But if you want to talk to me, it's $10.
I love that. All right, how many of you live in Orange? How many here live in Orange? Okay, this is going to apply the question to people who live in Orange. Okay. Yeah, it's not cheap. Okay, so here's the other question. If you live in Orange, if you live in Orange and you're a Serrano customer, okay, I'm assuming that folks here got something in their bill, right, that told them that we're having this going on. So you will get the same information in your bill that everyone else is. You can understand, we serve Villa Park as Serrano Water District, but we also serve Orange. We're not the city of Villa Park, even though we serve the city of Villa Park. You understand, we're our own district, our own entity. So you will get that bill, you'll get that information in the mail, same as everyone else. I like the questions on the card. Tyler Robinson.
All right, so I can understand and appreciate the community effort putting forward, trying to conserve water. I think drip systems are good. I think watering at night is good to make sure most of it doesn't get evaporated. I think these are good ideas. What I'm curious about is 80%.
You're okay. You're okay. Just hold it there.
Okay. How's this? Good? Great. Okay, so 80% of California's water is going to agricultural use, a lot of it towards water-intensive plants, and they're not watered particularly efficiently. Alfalfa, for one, if you grow like a football size or a football field size crop of alfalfa, you get 1.5 million gallons lost to evaporation alone. So with 80% of it going to agricultural stuff, the rest of it being businesses and us, is this not sort of a drop in the bucket?
I'll do my. I'll give my commentary on that. It's a draw. I understand that, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. But again, all of what you're saying was completely brought in front of the board, the state board, last week, and they didn't care. And there's lobbyists up there, and everyone's fighting the same thing, and they just did not listen to us. And right now, we are just under the state mandate. But guess what? Thank you for your comment. I get that.
Is there a way that we can be constructive and make a difference with what they're doing? We'll have our chance in November.
Yeah, there you go. That's good.
Yeah, you know, if I can just add to the general manager's comment. This is a statewide problem. We have limited ability to solve the statewide problem here in Villa Park. And I know a gentleman spoke and said, you know, what are we going to do? Are we just going to let this thing, you know, just kill us all? This district is very fortunate. We have an independent local water supply at Irvine Lake. We are about the only water district, water community in Southern California that can say that. Now, right now, there's not a lot of water in there because we haven't had a lot of rain, but we have our own independent source. We rely heavily on the groundwater basin. So we you know, when there's problems on the Colorado River, when there's problems in Northern California, we're not hit as badly as that. But we have a statewide problem, and we're getting an order from the state to comply like everyone else. We can't tell the state, we don't like your policy, we're not going to follow it. We can't be disobedient. We're a creature of the state. We have to follow the state. We have to follow the orders. As residents, you can send letters to your legislators. You can send letters to the governor. You can mobilize. You can do all of that. We have an obligation, however, to follow the orders that are given to us, and we're going to do that. We're going to do our small part, even if we think that maybe there's a better way for the state to manage its resources, because we don't have any choice. Ultimately, that will help protect your water supply as well as adding in some small part to helping the state solve its problem.
No, what it is, I know we want to keep kind of going if you want to.
But just in summation of that, this is what the state is doing, and this meeting is damage control. It's not, you know, no one here is at fault for stealing the cards.
Correct. Yes. That's really what it is. I mean, look, we know that now someone here named Bruce, and I like this question. I've added 2,000 gallons rain collection system to my property. Is there a limit of rainwater collection? If so, what is it, and are there any fines for being over the limit?
You're not serious. Will Bruce stand up?
I'll tell you right now, there's no, I mean, as long as you're collecting your own property, right? So there's no fine for collecting rainwater. That's your lawn's doing that.
Rain barrel rebate.
And there's also rebates for rain barrels. So if you have rain gutters, you can get a rain barrel rebate. Now here's the thing though, wait for the rain in order to get the collection, I guess. So you probably don't even need the rain barrel once it's raining. But they're neat looking. So get a rain barrel, they're cute. And he also has, there's currently a maximum of 300 gallons to receive a reimbursement for the cost of the units. Do you plan to expand this to larger collection systems such as mine? That I don't understand. So anyone want to clarify that? Okay. That's a good one. Kieran, contact, is that right? What happens to new owners if they have more residents than older owner? The difference could be quite large. Again, if you bought a house after 2013, that month is going to be taken. I think I answered this, I believe, in my presentation. Do we all know that answer? Okay, good. I think consideration is, and again, tomorrow they're going to work on what they call the sort of the lowest that we're going to make people, the lowest unit usage that will make people reduce to. But aside from that, if you're a brand new homeowner, and you have 7 or 8 people in there, if you take the average consumption of that month, it's more than enough to cover for the 7, 8 people, even minus the 37%. Because what it is that the more consideration that we're trying to give is to give you enough water to survive in the house, and just a little margin for the outside. I know people want to have the landscape and all that, but the state's telling us a mandate, and we have to find some way to reduce, so we still have to have that 36%. Okay? In 2013, 3 people lived in the house. And I'm trying to read this. The kids are back home. I think we'll just leave that one. That's good. I think I answered that already, right? But I will say this seriously though. I mean, if you all of a sudden you were one person and you're a grandparent, all of a sudden you let all your grandkids move in and their kids, and you have 15 people in the house, come by. I mean, if you were using no water before, come by and we'll give that consideration. Those are those extenuating circumstances. Okay, that's pretty real. Okay. In the event Serrano incurs a $10,000 penalty, how would penalties be charged to the users? Okay, now if we actually go into the penalty, that means that we didn't get the performance and some people went into the penalty rate, right? So that penalty money is solely set aside for, we're going to have to pay the penalty, right? So that's going to be set aside for that, and also to pay for our water conservation gentlemen to try to get us out of penalty and keep us out of penalty. So whoever has paid the penalty is probably going to be paying for the penalty that we're going to get from the state. We hope. Anyone want to comment on that? Or no? Okay. Okay. Given your penalty fee structure page, an example is 0% target units, 20 units, 78. I need to see how this. Why are the rates cheaper for high users in the first place? And it's the penalty is it's exactly the same, not as in dollar amount. Okay, it's fair across the board, percentage wise. So a guy who's a 150 unit user compared to the guy who's a 30 unit user, if the guy goes over and does that 56% over baseline, his dollar amount is going to be tremendously more than that lower user, but the percentage is exactly the same. It's like a flat tax. That answer that question? So we have gone from 2 adults in the house in 2013 to 4 adults in the house. Any adjustments? No. And the reason why I say that, because there's going to be, there's enough water. The inside consumption, I'm telling you folks, the inside consumption is so minuscule compared to the outside consumption here at Serrano. Anywhere else, okay? Especially here in Serrano. In the summertime, it is 80 to 90% of the water that here at the consumers here at Serrano the water goes to outside use. Okay? That's why the gallons per capita in the summertime are all the way in the 500s. That's 500 gallons. Put that in perspective. Ma'am, that would be 500 gallons a day that you're using. Not really, though. It's probably about 50 or 60 for showers, etc., but the rest of that water is going outside the house. Okay? That's the perspective of your summertime use. The water department told me to fill buckets with the cold water that comes out of the shower at first and use it to water plants. I have arthritis. I can't carry those buckets down the stairs. Sorry we told you that. I'm not sure how to answer that one. Smaller buckets.
That's not my question, but I had this too because I do that myself. Nope, that isn't me. I don't have arthritis. But I do that as well. But I have a water softener with like salt water, and technically you're not supposed to use that water to take outside and water your plant because you put salt into the soil. But is there something? I mean, I guess I have to ask a gardener, right?
The only grass that you would want to use that on is popsolim, which is a higher salinity grass. But yet, I don't know how to answer. There's going to be those, what I call those little rare little idiosyncrasies of the water you're not going to be able to save. And what I would say is if you're concerned about that, you'd have to make that decision whether you want to disengage your water softener until the drought's over and have a little hardness. I mean, that's another option. As far as the soil goes, that's very salt. That is high salinity water because that's the salt is what recharges and gives your ions back to the zeolite bead. So this way it can attract the hardness in the water. So you don't want that salt going outside. Oh, and they have potassium that you can replace it with. Wait a second. Let's one at a time here. I'm gonna keep. What we'll do is we'll hold. You can come up and we'll let people comment on maybe a follow-up. What is the impact of Prop 218 on tier structures? Well, I'm going to let our illustrious lawyer, legal counsel, answer this.
So let me start by saying Serrano Water District does not have a tiered rate structure. So this issue doesn't relate directly to Serrano Water District. But a number of public agencies had adopted tiered rate structures where the more water you use, the higher the rate. And it was a way to discourage people from using higher amounts of water. In the mid-1990s, the people voted in a constitutional initiative called Proposition 218. And among other things, that proposition says that certain types of fees, which the courts have said include water rates, that the fees have to be proportional to the cost of serving the parcel. An appellate court ruled a couple of weeks ago that a tiered rate structure in San Juan Capistrano was illegal under Proposition 218. Now, that doesn't mean that all tiered rate structures are unconstitutional, but they have to be based upon the cost of water, not just a flat policy of let's set a higher rate to discourage higher water use. So it's a complicated issue. It's a bit of a moving target because not everybody has the same kind of tiered rate system, but it doesn't relate directly to this community because the board of directors didn't adopt that kind of a rate structure. We have a flat rate structure under which however much water you use, you pay the same basic rate. The board will be talking about the penalty structure that the general manager described. That will be a penalty if you don't stay within the new baseline, but that's different than a tiered rate structure.
Okay. How many people here have two properties with 3 meters? We have a card here, so there we go. Can I combine all three and then why don't you go ahead and I can't quite read the rest. If I okay, are these three absolutely adjacent properties, or are they all over the city?
Two are adjacent, one's across the easement. One's on one bill, one's on a separate bill with 1 meter next door.
The one with the 2 meters and the 1 bill is combined. The one separate is not. The one with the count that you have the 2 meters on are combined, and we're combining those. It's by property and combination. That's the same event that's going on with the school, etc. So they can combine all those so they can make a decision on where they want to cut the water and etc. Okay? Did I answer that? Great. What is the billing cycle? Can you bank usage? The billing cycle is, I had to explain a billing cycle. The billing cycle is, let me just go in and tell you how we read the meters. How's that? That will answer the billing cycle. So let's say, for instance, that we read the meter on May 2nd, okay, and then we read the meter on June 2nd. Even though usually it's not a perfect 30 or 31 days, I just want to give you guys that heads up. We will bill that in May, and that's called a May billing cycle, okay? But we're still back and we're normalizing that data and calling that. Did I say that right? They get the months. It's basically the month that most of the days occurred as a month. We're calling that as your usage and normalizing that. So that's, I think that explained it. And you cannot bank it. You cannot bank it. So, well, you can get a whole bunch of tanks and store the water if you want, and then, no, you can't do that.
Each month.
No. That's, okay. So who gets the penalty monies? Who gets the penalty monies? And what are they going to do with it? Well, we're going to have the penalty money set aside specifically for dealing with the penalties that we're going to be dealing with the state. You know, hopefully we don't fall short. You know, if we end up with a 34, 35% and they decide to penalize us and we didn't meet the 36, you know, that's what the money is there for. And then and then the board will decide at that point, you know, when the penalties are all reconciled, et cetera, at that point what we're going to do with the money. Because this is uncharted territory, folks. This isn't something that's anyone's ever faced. Did any of the other board members want to comment on that, or that?
I think everyone, people are starting to leave, but I think everyone needs to understand that come the end of June, if we haven't got down to the 36%, the board will probably go back and entertain having higher penalty rates. I mean, that's the reality. We've got to somehow get down to 36% every month, month in, month out through February of next year. And hopefully we'll have rain, but we don't have an option. And for us to get hit if we don't do it, they could hit us with $10,000 a day, which is $3.6 million a year. We can't absorb that. There's just no way to do it. It would more than double our current rates for the ratepayer. So everyone needs to understand you've got to do everything you can. I'm taking out my turf. I mean, as we speak, I had someone out today to remove my turf. So you got to do your part, or it's just going to get worse. There's just no option.
And if I may add a little something to that, don't forget, I'm a ratepayer too. I mean, I use the same water. So I'm cutting back. And if I don't, I pay the same penalty. I don't get any benefit from being on this board.
We had someone actually ask that question.
Since everybody's speaking on the board, I might suggest that you, number one, the first thing you do is you check your water timer. And if you don't know how to do that, call us, and we'll come out and help you adjust your timer so that you're not watering every day or as much as you used to. That's the first thing you need to do. Then the second thing you need to do is just not waste water. Little things like when you're in the shower, if you shave in the shower, turn the water off. You know, if you usually let the water run when you're brushing your teeth, just remember to turn it off. Just those simple things will help you. But the main thing is have someone come out and adjust your sprinklers. If you don't know how to do it and your gardener doesn't know how to do it, call us. We'll show you how to do it. I think that'll go a long way.
Also, does anyone see the forecast for tomorrow? Turn your timers off tonight, folks. Come on, why have the water come on tomorrow? You know, and it's also a good time now's the time to get your roots and your lawn going a little deeper. All right,
Jerry, this is a little housekeeping item. How long are these the governor's orders in effect?
The governor's orders are in effect until February 28th. However, I'm going to see if I say this right. My attorney can correct me. What it is that they have the right, as the governor always does, to reactivate or basically extend out that mandate or that executive order. So it sunsets in 2016, February 28th, but he can sunrise it. So he can bring it back up.
Yeah, I think we indicated in June 30, 2016, but it's really February. But as Director Hates indicated, if we don't get water this winter, all bets are off. It's a dire situation. So that's what we're faced with.
These are can I just tell you, folks, these are the questions that's hard for us, board and general manager, to answer. Why are we allocating more water to the Delta smelt and Pacific salmon, as well as farmers, and not penalizing them? If we cut off water to these users, then we would have, if we cut them off, we wouldn't have the shortage, right? Don't have that answer for you. That's a policy decision that's higher up than us even. So.
Yeah.
What's your current reserve? Can it be used to stall the rate increase? I'll let Woody answer that question.
Right now, the district has cash of approximately $2.3 million. However, we do have 4,000 acre-feet of water in the lake, which before we've purchased water, anticipating there might be a drought, and as the gentleman from Modoc indicated, we are in good shape, but we just can't use that water. We will not suffer any losses because we can sell that water to Orange and either make money or with break even. So in effect, our reserves are liquid reserves, lack of a pun, about $4 to $4.5 million where we're at today, if you include the water, which we should.
And, okay, so what is the district doing to reduce their operating expenses? We operate pretty frugally. This isn't a big district. We're not out there, how do you answer that question? We essentially operate very fiscally responsible. We operate our wells properly, and we do our proper maintenance. And we're not going to defer maintenance, folks, because deferred maintenance is just not a good thing to do at a water district. You want your water to come on your tap right and be reliable. So,
well,
I think we do a pretty tight budget.
Piggyback on that. At our board meetings every month, the board specifically goes over all of the expenses within the district, monitors the district expenses so that they can't get out of control. And we've been doing this for several years, and we pride ourselves in the fact that we do run a lean machine over there. And I know Jerry would like to have more people working for him, and we increased it by one, hiring the conservation specialist, but I can assure you that we do everything to keep the costs down.
Kind of carrying on that, the operating costs of the district, excluding the recent purchase of water, has been about $4 million over the last 4 or 5 years. It's not gone up very efficiently. Now, we've had to purchase water this last year, so you have to add that into it. And so the district is run so we at a break even or better, and actually better if we don't have to buy the water. But right now, we're just at that point that we don't have a lot of room to absorb any reduction in income. This is what this is all about, or increase in expenses. We can control the expenses, and we run a pretty lean machine through it all.
And by the way, the public is always invited to our board meetings. We meet once a month in the morning. We'd love to have you come if you're very interested. Come and watch us.
What about those of us who have been responsible and cut back starting about 9 years ago? I'm sorry, 4 to 5 years ago. There's still going to be an expectation for cutbacks, but there is going to be a bottom at which that we're not going to expect a cutback, and that's something that we're going to entertain tomorrow at the board meeting, and it will be, that will be a limit to where we're expecting a cutback. But it's going to be to the point where it's just life-sustaining, water for, in the house, and some really moderate, low watering. So it's at our over at our offices over on Lincoln Avenue. 8:30. Okay, what's this? Okay, Tim. Now help me out here. Earhart, you're up. No. No. No, because the thing is, let's put. And this takes time. The question. I'll put the question aside. I want to explain something that's the 2013 that they're comparing us to, in that calculation, was a wetter year than we're in now. We're much drier, so we do need more. I mean, theoretically, we need more water to water things. They didn't take that in consideration. They did not do a climactic adjustment. What do you call it? Climatic adjustment. Okay? Yeah.
Water.
It's not. Yeah, I messed that up. Wow. Okay. So, Bob Colcutt.
Hi, Jerry. Hey, how you doing? My name is Bob Collicott. I'm a councilman here in the city of Villa Park. We've all heard on the media a lot of bad press about Serrano Water District and, of course, the city of Villa Park about our high water usage. And our mayor, Diana Fasinelli, brought up a good point in her presentation that I was going to bring up too, and that is that we've, for a very small city, we have 3 very large school campuses that we support, and they use a lot of water. How does that factor into our per capita water usage? Has there been any pushback from our water district to either the media or the state about the fact that we're supporting 4 large campuses for such a small city? Basically, our population almost doubles every day when we have 4,000 students come in, primarily from out of the city, to use those facilities. So I think we need to do a good job of getting the word out that part of that 528 gallons per day water usage is a lot from out-of-city residents, and for a school district that the city and the water district apparently have no control over. One thing I'd like to also ask is on the penalties. If the water district gets penalized, how will that penalty, and if the school district is not cut back, how does that penalty get handed on down to the school district so that they carry their fair share of the responsibility for any failure to conserve water? Finally, since I've been sworn in December, I've pointed out on more than one occasion that the Orange Unified School District is doing a good job of watering Serrano Avenue. You go out there most every night when they have their sprinklers on. The sprinklers water basically the entire width of Serrano Avenue, and I've brought it up a number of occasions, and Mike Christensen and the Orange Unified School District has done nothing about it. It'd be good to see them take a leadership role in conserving water on their facilities. Thank you.
I think tomorrow at the board meeting, and our attorney just brought it up, and it makes a lot of sense, is to form a subcommittee on the board to deal with the school district.
There was another question too on the gallons per capita per day. The school district, first of all, let me back up. The way that we report our numbers and the way that everyone in California reports their numbers, if they're metering properly, is that the school usage, when I report my numbers for the residential gallons per capita per day, are not included in that number. I remove that out of my equation. So if that's 5 or 6%, that's taken out. So when I did the report, your gallons per capita per day had nothing to do with the school district. It's taken out. Okay? They're not bringing that number up and making it to where you look like you're using more water. That's taken out completely out of the equation. Okay? So then what happens is that I report that number, okay, And that's how they came up with the overall production reduction. That means how much water I pump out of the ground, how much water I could take out of Irvine Lake and treat it. That total production I serve across a whole community has to be reduced by 36%. Okay? So the school district does have to reduce their, I mean, we're sending them the 36%. They're getting that same penalty. Okay? They need to find somewhere in all their meters, because they're going to get their meter bill has all their meters and it's combined. If they select some areas that they want to reduce or just not water at all, they can do that. That's up to them. Okay. Does that answer that question, Bob? Great. Serrano Avenue. We've talked to them a few times, and we'll continue to talk with them. Now, that goes along with just not along Serrano Avenue. We have notified a lot of people with notification and tags who have allowed water to go into the street, and etc. Really, at this point moving forward, the first notice is free. It's a get out of jail free card. You know, it's okay. Don't do it again. The second one is a notice saying you're going to get a $100 fine if you have water. Your sprinklers, you don't know, you're sleeping in the morning and your sprinklers are on, and the first time we notified you, you didn't go and adjust so it doesn't run off down your, the little cracks in your driveway and then down in the gutter, and it's rolling down across 4 houses in front. You're going to get a $100 fine. But we'll give you one more chance. You have to utilize our gentleman, Steve Sweeney, to go out and give you a shot to readjust your sprinkler timers. Okay? If you refuse to do that, you're going to get the $100 fine. And by the way, every time that we find it again, it goes up to $500. Okay. Did that answer that question on the high school? And then we're going to be talking with them and dealing with them as well. Okay. We don't want to see that either. The imperial governor is all to blame. I had no there's a foresight like his father to build a significant amount of water storage systems instead of investing additional, what is this? Is this inviting or investing additional water users in the state from the southern border? Okay, I should have read that one from now on, I'm going to read the whole thing before I. Yeah, I didn't quite understand that. Please, Jack, go ahead. Come on up here. I don't know about this one.
My name is Jack Adrian. I've been residing in Villa Park for 37 years. And this is the first time that we really are getting hit with, I guess, a big water shortage. Now, I have no problem when all efforts are made by everybody. But then the people up in the capital, up in Sacramento, just dropped the ball all totally, especially the current governor. I call him, I want to get a few smiles or giggles here, imperial governor, because he's ordering all this, mandating all this. I don't even know if it's legal. I don't know if he can dictate these things legally. Now, he can say these things, he can order things, and we just follow like good soldiers, and we just try to fix the problem. But some cases, it's very painful because of circumstances. Now, I'm glad to hear that the circumstances can be reviewed and all that, and hopefully something can be done about it. But a large area of water consumption is by people he invites to the state. We have 1.5 million to 2 million people here from out of state, out of the country, come across the border, and they become new water users. What is the governor going to do about that?
I don't think we have that answer.
I don't think you have the solution to that, not you, anyway.
I appreciate the commentary on that, though. That's okay. Okay. How do I cut 36%? I have no idea. Well, did most everyone got that card in the mail, right? I mean, really, in the end of the day, it's your responsibility to cut back 36%. We gave some guidance, all right, of how to cut back. Ultimately, how you do that, that's up to you. Instead of 15 minutes per station, 2 days per week, can we do 7 minutes 4 times a week? The law is 2 days a week.
Okay, that was actually my question. So I can only have it 2 days a week, but I cannot run it 15 minutes. I would have runoff like crazy. I mean, most people have more than, we have several stations, right? Like, I have 9 stations. I have 9 stations, right? But I don't have lawn. Let's say I have, in 5 stations I have lawn. So I do 3 minutes on 5 stations, and I do it, so it makes up to 15 minutes each station. But that would be a lot more than I normally even water. That's a tremendous amount of water. In 1 day. That's a 15-minute per station. That seems a lot.
I think I'm misunderstanding that.
Yeah, I am,
Maybe you
I
want to
guess.
explain that again. I missed that.
Okay, you have like several stations. You don't have like 1 station per lawn. Doesn't everybody have that, right? You have like the front part of the lawn in the back, right? And now you want it to do like each station to run only twice a week, right?
Yes.
But now you say you can run each station 15 minutes?
Yeah, up to that. You can do at least as you want.
But that's what I mean. Why wouldn't I be able? Wouldn't that be the same amount if I run it 4 days a week? Can I run it?
We need to talk a little bit about interval watering.
Yeah, let me go into
A, B,
the
and C
explanation of
stations.
interval watering. If I understand now, let's say I have 20 stations, all right? But let me cut it up to just 2 stations, all right, to make it easier. All right, and let's say number 1 is lawn, and number 2 is the shrubs. And usually on number 1, I'm running it 15 minutes, 4 days a week. Okay? No one's doing that. I know everyone said no one's doing that much, but let's just say for argument's sake, okay? The rule is now to cut it back to 2 days a week, maximum 15 minutes. Let's say you had a lot of runoff still going on with that. The way to reduce the potential runoff is to break up your timer, and most timers have it, okay? And if yours doesn't have it, I really suggest, and it's worth the investment, to go down to Home Depot, Lowe's, I don't want to give any, Hydroscape, Ewing, Orange County Farm Supply, they're all across the board. I gave everyone a plug. Get a timer for $50, $60. It has A, B, C, and if it has D and E and F, great programs. And what you do is you have your lawn come on 3 minutes, and then let's go to the shrub now. Lawn went off, and then your shrub comes on for 3 minutes, and have it go back to the B comes on for the B for the lawn. Station number 1 comes on for 3 minutes, and then it goes to B, station number 2, and you keep doing that. What this does is, because what happens with soil, and I'm sure everyone understands this, but a lot of people don't do it even though they understand it, is that soil reaches a saturation point. There's a transmissivity of soil, okay, it can only transmit so much water through. It's like a saturated sponge. You keep pouring it on a saturated sponge, it's going to roll off, right? But if you just trickle some water on it and then go trickle on another sponge, come back, you have time for that to roll through. The same thing with your lawn. Now, from the way I understand your question is that you want to basically break up that 15 minutes from 2 days and do it 7 minutes for 4 days, right? No, you can't do that.
Who's going to buy it?
Yeah, what's that? Why?
The same number of minutes.
That's because the theory is, and the studies are, is that it's actually better to water deeper and less often. And that's the whole reason, because without getting in a horticultural debate, is that it's better for your shrubs, it's better for your tree. Look at your shrubs and trees. Any of you who are watering your shrubs 4 or 5 days a week, you're doing a disservice to your plants. You need to go to once a week at most for your shrubs and do a nice deep soaking. And how do you do that without runoff? Interval timing, 3 minutes, go off, go water other stations for 3 minutes, come back around, water, and it goes down, and you promote deep growth habits. What I see time and time again is people end up having to pull their shrubs out because they have root rot and etc., but they love to see that damp soil. If that damp soil is not damp, it doesn't look good to them. Okay? It's better to have dry soil on the top because you're forcing those roots to go down. You're going to have less root intrusion, less chance of roots going and going underneath your pavement, etc. You want to have deep rooting. And the same applies to your lawn. It's no different. Horticulture 101, and hopefully that helps you out. So yeah, it's and by the way, and if you just forgot all this and you want our handsome gentleman to come on over to your house and show you how to use that sprinkler timer, give us a call and they'll go out there. Okay. What percentage will a pool cover save? I don't have the exact numbers, but if you had that pool covered all the times you're not swimming in it, it would save a tremendous amount of water. I would say at least 50 to 60%. It doesn't evaporate. I see people have a pool cover, hardly putting any water in, compare to their neighbor or dumping water in for an hour to cover the evaporation. And the guy with the pool, about once a week, he's putting that same amount of water in there. So it's a big difference. Okay, and also if you get the right one, you don't have to turn your pool heater on. It's like a sauna.
Can I comment on the pool?
Okay. I'll give it.
I'm not going to ask you for excuses. I'm going to give everybody a tip.
Put the mic up.
I'm going to give everybody a tip. I found what I call a magic ingredient, and I put it in my pool water at night. And it serves as a blanket on the pool. It goes through the whole filtering system, but it stays in overnight, and every night I put it in. So it's like having a blanket without having a blanket. And it's made in Canada, but I found a place where I can buy it. But if you call me, I will tell you the name of the ingredient, and you can do your own search.
Why don't you tell us now?
Okay. Hi, Sarnie Goodman.
Why don't you tell us? What's the secret?
Hand your card out.
It's isopropyl alcohol plus something magic. I'm telling you, I don't know.
You have a patent on the magic.
They have a patent on the magic.
It's at pool stores.
Huh?
It's at pool stores.
Okay, well, it's at pool stores, but it's basically isopropyl alcohol and what that ingredient is, and if you say it's at pool stores, fine.
Great. Thank you for that tip. That's good. Okay. I'm sorry. Some of these, I'll be honest, I can't read. So, I think I answered this question. 2013 wet month versus 2015 dry month. I already answered that question, right? Okay, I can't read it. I just apologize. Frank, why waste water to keep grass green if we plant and remove to save water? If we plan to remove to save water? Was that you? Oh, Frank.
I just want to know, why do we have to waste water to keep our grass green if we're going to take it out? You people won't authorize it if we wait 2 or 3 months to get approvals. That's 2 or 3 months of water that I'm wasting to keep a grass green.
No, it's
just
not
to get a rebate.
It's not this water district. It's MW.
But you guys got power. You should be able to say something about that.
Yeah.
That's
Believe
just a
me.
way. You're telling us to save water, but you're telling us to waste water to produce for the future.
Question, Jerry.
Question. You're saying you're wasting water on your lawn, so that's.
Question, Jerry. With the
Go
question
ahead,
of that,
Woody.
If you let your lawn grow brown, don't water it. That does not disqualify you for the rebate, does it? It does?
No, it doesn't.
I don't think it does.
No.
Well, did Harvey leave?
No, he's out there.
Hey, Harvey, come on
Look
in
at
here.
the website.
Harvey, come in here. The question is that, you know, now some people are going to let their lawn go green or go brown, and because there's going to be a little bit of wait for the rebate, and before even applying, because the process is they want to put water on it, why do it if they're going to be pulling it out? Will they still qualify for the rebate? Because before they wouldn't qualify because they had to see nice, lush green grass. Is that being now waived and thought about?
The rules are being talked about in regards to modifications, and that's a great question. We're looking at that and making a modification for the program and being considered in the sense that we want you, and all of you are seeing how not watering during that time upon when you get the turf removed is probably the best way to go. So we're looking and talking with some of the program administrators to allow for that. In essence, another way to describe it is that you can put your application in, you can say, I'm planning to do this, I'm turning off my water. When I am now I'm going to receive my rebate to actually put in the artificial turf or to put in the California friendly or whatever mechanisms you choose to do that, you're not in essence going to be penalized for having it gone dry or dead in essence.
So actually, if we took a picture right now of everything that could, right? Because you asked us to take a picture.
Yes.
So if we took the picture and it looked good, and then we decided to stop watering.
Right.
In 2 months, you couldn't really come, even though my garden is going to look as bad as it looks right now. But anyway, you would then say, okay, this doesn't look as good, but we can see it.
Yeah.
Good by your picture.
I think that is a good approach. Again, the rules haven't been defined yet, but that's exactly what we're trying to talk to the program administrator. Right. That makes sense, and I think that is something that they're open to. We haven't finalized them yet, but I will try to convey that message across, which is we're asking people to reduce usage. This seems to be a good way of doing that. You don't want to be forced to water your lawn just so you can turn it out, turn it over time. So I will convey that message again to the program administrators. I think it makes sense too. Yeah. But again, I don't have that approval, but I will convey the message to them.
Yeah, this gentleman here had an interesting question. If my whole front yard was ivy, would I get a rebate? No, it is specifically turf. It's cash for grass. It's kind of the. Well, you laugh, but that was what they enable it in other places. Cash for grass in Vegas, and I think it's green for green. They got a few different kicks on that one, but Ivy's actually pretty low user. So I mean, you're already doing good on that one. So you water that once a month.
Isn't that Colorado cash for grass?
No, we're not giving rebates on co-ops. How many units of water is the average homeowner in Villa Park using? Okay, this number I'm going to give is what I call taking the total consumption of residents for the year and then dividing it by 12, which is not representative for like July and et cetera, but it's 44 units is the average. About 44 units. Not per person. The total consumption in the house. I mean, for the lawn, everything. 44 units. No, 44 units is the total monthly average, and that could be more in the summer months, 60 to 80, and then lower in the 30 in the winter, etc. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head.
Annual average, 44.
No, annual average would be 44 times 12, and someone do the math on that for me. For each month. Yes. Yes, I did. Yes. What about my neighbor who has What about my neighbor who has 7 people, but I'm only 1? Shouldn't I be allotted more water? No. And then we have Dolly. Dolly, do you have a new idea? Dolly, come on up here. Dolly, come on up here, Dolly. Hello, Dolly.
Gentlemen, you know you have a very serious situation, and obviously a lot of us can get upset about it, but I think for a long time we've known that we have to be watching our water use. Now, everything tonight is, because you had to do it, has presented us with penalties. It's presented us with things that are just supposed to really keep us in line. However, I think that just like working with anybody, not right now, I think you have too much on your plate. But certainly as we're looking at this year ahead, I really would appreciate it if you would take into consideration some sort of a program whereby the gentleman who said, hey, I'll guarantee you I'll cut my percent. I'll guarantee you I will too. We would like to have some additional incentive to even want to do more. I think the idea that you're telling us we have to do one thing, why don't you encourage some of us who are willing to do even more and have it reflect in a positive way? Obviously, we'll always have negative situations, and I don't mean you have time for it right now. Obviously, you guys are over your head with negative stuff that you have to deal with, and you're trying to restrict things. But in the future, please take it under consideration that somehow, either quarterly, I do not know how many households use service, but even quarterly, just put a program into your computer. It runs for everybody, and if we did under and we did better, then it would be worth it, even if it's not about money, even getting the recognition that it might be better if we have a bad time. Just the idea that this has been sort of negative, and really, we all want to do the right thing. And the right thing is to be careful right now and to conserve. So if you guys could, in the future, put it on your plate to somehow think about how to give incentives to the residents, I think you'd have such a positive response.
I think you.
Most of us want to do the right thing.
I think you expressed that very well.
Good suggestion.
Really?
Yeah, well, that's something we actually like that. I like that idea because I understand that. I like to put nice things on people's bills, you know, that would be nice. And I think it's something the board would be open to having me look towards to doing. Just giving just a attaboy or kudo kind of a feel.
Either I wrote it wrong or you misread the last thing. It's 7 people next door to me have to use more water than I do as one. That's what I meant.
That's yeah, okay.
What happens to them? Their water bill's got to be more.
It is, and again, it goes into the calculation. You know, one of those things we're going to talk about tomorrow, and it's going to be fair. What it is that there's going to be a base, you know, the baseline that we're going to have people reduced only down to a certain point, okay? But the people with 7 people in the house, again, that's residential residential gallons per capita per day for the 7 people. You know, there'll be enough water allocated for 7 people, but unfortunately, it means that if they had a tremendous landscape, you know, that's still going to have to reduce some water on the outside, and the person next door with one person.
It's the same landscape for both houses.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Okay. Let's see. Is August 2015, will that be compared to June 2013 or August 2013 usage? I think I answered that question as far as how I'm going to. Does everyone have a pretty good feeling of how we're comparing the usage? June is June, July is July. Yeah. What happened to funds for new infrastructure? You mean for here at the district or for the whole state?
State. What happened to those funds?
Well, they had Prop 1 funding. I think I can have Harvey answer that question because he's really up on all that funding.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What happened to the funds?
The Prop 1A funds?
Yeah.
Okay, you may know a little bit, Joel, but the Prop 1A funds that was passed has certain different departments in the state have control over that funding. And as previous propositions, like Proposition 84 and others, there are certain phases of funds that come out. There's also, most of the funds are designated in certain areas, like infrastructure and development of recycled water, storage, other components, ocean desal, investments. And so not all of the, let's say, $1 billion are available to be taken or given out within a given 1 or 2 years. It is phased out over a period of time. Some of the funds that is in the propositions, the governor has utilized or accessed that money as part of this emergency declaration. In fact, when we talked about the governor potentially tapping into some of that funds to be utilized for the turf removal program and meeting some of the matching funds, that is one area. He's also trying to accelerate the production, the construction of certain projects, and some money could be associated there as well. So the money is being utilized, but I just want to warn you, it's not all of the billions of dollars that was passed is being utilized. Joel, do you want to add anything else in there?
Just to say that it's actually very complicated to build big state infrastructure projects and to finance them, and it just unfortunately takes a long time. The state actually has to adopt regulations to make sure that the money's used in a manner that meets the bond that's used, so the money's not wasted, it doesn't go to the wrong parties. None of that's very satisfactory when we have a dire need for water, but it's just a fact of life that it just takes the state a long time to do this stuff.
Basically, what I'm asking you, are some of those funds being diverted into the general fund as they did with the gas tax?
I can't speak to that. I don't. Most of the funds probably haven't even been gathered yet because they issue the bonds to and collect the money from public debt issuances shortly before they need it. So whether we like the way they're spending it or not, I don't even know that they've had the money in their pockets to spend yet.
Yeah, even some of the funds that they're looking at, and it hasn't been finalized yet, but they're looking at even the cap and trade from the gas emissions. Those penalties. They're looking at tapping into some of those funds. I mean, that's just some ideas that they're looking at. The bullet train, yeah. No, they haven't been looking into that yet.
Excuse me. Okay. Okay, can you believe we have one left? Can you believe we reached the bottom? Is the only enforcement penalty on the water bill? No. I mean, we obviously, the penalty is to try to get people to, reach the 36% reduction, but there's also the fines for if you're allowing water to run into the street, et cetera. Okay, so no, that's not the only enforcement. Because likely folks who are letting water run in the street are probably, let's be real, they're using more water than they should be, right? They're letting water run down the street. It's a shame. And let me tell you, most people don't even see it. We'll go drive by the house, they're sleeping. Okay? I don't know anyone who walks out of their house, and I've seen them, and they see it pouring down the street. They usually will do something about it. They're sleeping, it's gone, it's ran down, and they just see kind of wet. Or they're off to work. When we usually bring it to someone's attention, they don't usually completely disregard us. They respond. Okay? There are some that don't. Okay, and now we're going to deal with that. But most people don't want to just waste water and let it run down the street. So, but the enforcement, no, it's not just penalty on the water bill for the rates. And now, I'm going to do a few questions in the audience now. We want to do that?
What is the additional?
Wait a second. We had one more right here.
I used 20 units in January. August, I'm using 30 because it's hotter. So am I going to be automatically the penalty in August? Really, where I hit my average for the year?
No, we're doing monthly. It had nothing to do with that.
What I'm saying is, monthly, August of 2013, I'm using 30. Are you going to
No, it's August. The 30 units you used in August of 2013 will be reduced by 36%, and I don't have the mathematical equation, so that would be probably 20-ish. Okay?
If I use less water in January of 2013, that number's going to also change.
That number in January is going to be, we're going to use the January 2013 number.
So you're going to use more water in the summer. That's opposite.
Yeah, we know
Am I
that.
going to be penalized in the summer for even cutting back 35%? The summer, the winter, I'm going to use less water because I don't use as much.
If you use, the bottom line is that the comparison for August is going to be August of 2013. And if you use below the number that we give you, you're not going to be penalized. You're going to not be penalized at all. If you're doing January, and you're go above the percentage that you will be penalized.
What I'm saying is the numbers that you guys are using for a reference, is it divided by 12?
No,
That month?
no. What it is we with our billing data, and I think I went through this, but I'll do it one more time because it is complicated. We are going to get every month of the year, every single individual month for the year of 2013. And we are going to take that one individual month from 2013 and give that reduction. And we're going to provide you on a mailing separate from a water bill, a week before your water bill, telling you for each month what you should be at per day, though, because it's easier for you to understand that. Most people don't know what 50 units even means in a month. I'm going to, ma'am.
So we actually bought a short sale a few years ago in Villa Park, and we were required by the city to put in landscaping and everything. And actually couldn't even get our block walls signed off until we got the landscaping done. So we've done that, but when you look at our 2013 numbers, they're going to be bad because we just didn't have any, we had no sprinkler system, we had a bunch of weeds. So my question to you is, who do we make an appointment with to discuss a review of our, water bill appropriately?
Come to our office. You don't need to make an appointment. Just come to our office, and then we'll bring it up in the billing system. We'll take a look at it and talk about it. And that's not a disclaimer saying that we're making any guarantees. We're just saying we'll talk about it. Okay, it will be taken into consideration.
Before somebody asked the question if there are other remedies besides penalties, you said yes. What are they? I mean, can you go to court or?
I misunderstood that. What are the other remedies for penalties? I'm gonna let our legal counsel answer that question of what the other remedies are.
Let me just.
You mean the remedy for the individual who doesn't want to be penalized?
For repeated violations, you just keep finding, or can you do something?
The district adopted what's called a water conservation and shortage program last year when the drought kept going, and the district was sort of required to do that. Most other agencies did it as well. And it includes more onerous penalties that the district would rather not have to look at. Those include, among other things, for willful violations, the district can actually crimp your line or disconnect your service, which means you can't stay in your house. And under state law, if you willfully, repeatedly violate these provisions, and I don't mean go over, but if you intentionally water your driveway and say, I'm snubbing my nose, I want to make a statement that I disagree with all these rules, that technically can be sent to the DA as a misdemeanor violation with a penalty of 30 days in jail, $1,000. I don't know that the DA is going to take the case, but I mean, those are the theoretical penalties. Again, the district doesn't want to go there. The district is going to be working very hard to try to help all of you follow these rules to the greatest extent possible. We've tried to write the penalties that the board will be considering tomorrow in a way that if you're a low water user and you go a little bit over, you don't get slapped with a big fine. I mean, a lot of districts are just doing a flat, you violated, it's $300 a day, whether you violated it by 1 gallon or whether you violated it by 1 million gallons. The general manager has proposed a system that is as equitable as possible under the circumstances. We have lots of onerous penalties that we don't want to look at. And that's why the district has hired a separate conservation officer and is willing to work with people so that we don't even have to talk about those things.
Great. Any more hands? I hear yawning now, so which means that people probably are done.
Can I ask one question?
Well, here we go. Yeah, it's open.
One more question. One more question. I understand the conservation issue, and I'm all for that. But what I'm not understanding clearly maybe is it appears to me that even if in the best scenario, Serrano Water District makes the 36% reduction, as you mentioned in your slide, it still means that your revenue is down 36% also, correct? So that, aren't we paying for that anyways with possibly a rate increase? And why are we spending hundreds of millions of dollars paying people to put in plastic grass when, you know, why not put it towards the rate increase or for, you know, it just seems to be a lose-lose situation as far as the public is concerned. I don't know if Serrano can cut their operating costs by 36%. I imagine every district in the county is not going to be able to do that, and it jeopardizes the future of our infrastructure, right? Correct. So,
it's not a strictly legal question, but let me take a shot at it. What you describe is this very frustrating tension. I mean, and you're right. Conserving, reducing water use, it helps the problem. You know, we stretch a limited resource further, but that means there's less revenues coming into the district. It doesn't mean that if we achieve 36% conservation that we've lost 36% revenues, because there are some variable revenues. I mean, to some extent, our treatment plant doesn't have to work as hard. We don't have to push as much water through it, so we don't have to buy as many chemicals. Our electricity costs are lower. And electricity is a big component of a water agency because we use pumps, we use treatment plants. So some of the costs will go down, but others won't. I mean, the fact of the matter is we still have to send bills out every month. We have to pay postage. We have to pay insurance. We have to do all those other kinds of things. So one of the frustrating things is that when people conserve and do the right thing, the revenues do go down some, and that's why the general manager described the fact that we will have to have some level of a rate increase just to cover the basic costs so that we can continue to provide enough water and safe water that you can use for drinking. And every water agency in the state is facing that same conundrum. It's just this very frustrating problem with conservation.
Do you know what percentage of your operating costs are variable versus fixed?
I don't have that percentage right off the top of my head.
Is it mostly variable?
No.
Probably more.
No.
80-20 maybe.
Well, yeah, I don't want to say because I don't have the percentage. I have to think about that.
It's higher than that if we're not buying water. Most of it's fixed because the variables are just the water we use, and that's somewhat fixed anyway because it doesn't adjust that much. So the bulk of our expenses are fixed expenses.
Come on, we got to have some more questions. Here we go. 1 minute, by the way. 1 minute.
I'm just speaking to the fellow from the Metropolitan Water District, and he was saying that if somehow our water supply miraculously increased, Irvine Lake doubled in size, quadrupled. We had enough water for 10 years. Even if we found new resources for water, the governor is still going to mandate that we cut back 36%. Now, does that not ring somewhat evil? There's a good word for you, evil. So even if we found plenty of water, we had a pipeline to British Columbia and we got all the water, we knew somebody in British Columbia, the governor would still come to us, is that correct? Is that what you told me? That the governor would say you still have to cut back 36% even though you have plenty of water.
If there was the 25%, just to let everyone know, that the governor's calling for is 1.5 million acre feet. That's an equivalent of all of Lake Oroville. That's what the governor is simply, when he went out and looked at the annual snow survey, and that's when they go out there and they actually put this big stick in the ground and they measure the amount of snow to find out what the water content is. They do it every year, and it's a really interesting picture that shows just all the snow everywhere around them while they're doing that. They went out there on April 1st, which they do every year. They do the manual snow survey. There was not even a touch of snow. The governor went out there with just a small little blazer. The point I'm trying to make is that he realized that, in essence, the water supply was at such an extremely low level that they needed to reduce demands, okay? The reason why I'm pointing that out is that, to use your analogy, if somehow or other they were able to build a pipeline and do it within a matter of days or weeks, and that could replace the 1.5 million acre feet that we've lost, no, I don't think the governor would be calling for this. The point I think you were pointing out that is that if Serrano has already done the great job that they have more than a year's supply without needing to reduce. And let's say somewhere or another they found 5 more years of supply for this community that they wouldn't have to reduce. They would be independent from anything else. The governor's actions would still be in place. He is not looking at individuals, and he's not looking at it from a standpoint of, well, this agency's well off or this agency's done a little bit more. He's simply providing and calling for reduction across the board at some level for each agency and entity. That is basically what is going on, because he feels and sees that the supply conditions are so dire that if we don't do something about it now, we don't know what next year is going to bring. We don't know what Mother Nature is going to bring. So he's saying we have to take action now. I don't know whether he's right or wrong, meaning that if it rains severely in November, December, January, and February, I think all of us are probably going to go back and say, what was this guy thinking? We didn't need to conserve that much. But if it doesn't rain again for a 5th consecutive year, I think these board members have already told you the conditions are going to continue, and the 36% may be something even greater that are called upon. That's the point. He is asking for a reduction of demands. This board and this community here has done a great job in managing supplies, but he's calling for a statewide reduction in demands. Plain and simple.
That's their policy decision. They didn't take it into consideration. And I'm going to explain one thing. When I read the executive order and then the state board's adoption, there are little nuances to it, but when you're reading it, and you obviously this doesn't apply to Serrano Water District, you just kind of brush over it. There are what they call these smaller providers, public, utility providers. And within there, and I need to have the specifics, and I think Joel might be able to answer a little bit more. If there is an entity who has 4 years, basically if you're in a force field of your own somewhere where you have your water supply is completely separate from everything going else in California, 4-year supply. And I don't know if it applies how big the entity is. It's a 4% reduction, mandated. But you have to have a 4-year supply, 100% local. Not purchased water, it has to be local water that fell out of the sky and came through your watershed area, and you have 100% water right of it. You get a 4% reduction. I brushed past that. It doesn't apply to us. It's never going to apply to us. We're never going to have that.
The general manager correctly stated this exception that really doesn't help us and it doesn't help most agencies. And I can appreciate the frustration. We could somehow develop an independent water supply that made it so that we had plenty of water, and yet we're subject to this statewide restriction. That may or may not be fair. The fact of the matter is, whether we like it or not, this district has an obligation from the state. We have a mandate, a commandment from the state that we have to follow. The state was talking about penalties of $10,000 a day if the district doesn't comply. Now, I don't think that the state is going to impose those kinds of penalties on this district if the district tries but doesn't quite hit the mark. But if this district says, you know, it's not fair, we're just not going to follow it, we could be hit with major penalties. To give you a sense, $10,000 a day over the course of a year would be penalties that are roughly twice this agency's budget, as I understand. That would be around $4 million. That would mean that this district would then have to, on top of everything else, double the water rates to everyone just to pay for the penalty and then still comply. So whether we like it or not, we're caught between a rock and a hard place in this. The elected members of the board of directors may or may not agree with what the governor is doing, but we have to exercise good faith to implement that order that's been given to us. It's not that we're not allowed to use it. That water is going to be used. There's a difference between being told that we can't use as much water and being assured that we have water to supply to you. That water will be used, but we can't just say, well, we've got enough water in the lake so we can disregard this restriction, forget the 36% and let you use as much as you want. Within the next year, most or all of that water is going to be gone. That's what's going to be running through the pipes into your faucets. It will be used.
Well, most of that water, if we still have the restrictions, will be sold to the city of Orange. We wholesale water to Orange. So we're either, best case, make some money or break even. That's part of the plan. So we don't have to worry about that water just sitting there and evaporating. And when Joel says it won't be there, either we'll use it, we're restricted, so we can't use all of that within that, or we sell it to the city of Orange. And that's what we're in the process of doing. At some point in time, yeah.
And also, it does actually assist us with the sale of that orange. It does actually help our budget, so we can actually mitigate some degree of a rate increase. If we did not sell that water off as he sold, it would be it would be an even further impact to the budget. You actually see the rate go up more. So it's beneficial that we sell that. Save, we're obviously going to save what we need, project what we need for our usage, not get rid, not utilize that water off to someone else, keep it for us. But then whatever that surplus is, so we don't suffer, minimize evaporation and maximize our dollar back and impact the budget, sell it to Orange.
If it weren't for the rules mandated by the governor, the water out there would be used for retail use by our customers. But because of that, we have to, and we knew going in that we could buy the water and still sell it and either make money or break even, is what he said. So we're not going to be hurt by it, but we would benefit greatly if we didn't have these other rules we had to follow. No, because we have a contract and the amount is set and it's adjusted according to the Met rate.
Now, I might add one thing. If we get a lot of rain this coming year, this is my opinion, there's going to be some sort of still restriction because the state adopted a 20% reduction, the governor did, I think I'm correct, Joel, by 2020. And you know that that's going to stay in effect, and it's probably going to have more teeth to it. So there is going to be more than likely some type of reduction long term. May not be the 36% if we get enough water, but it's going to be some percentage. So that's what we're faced with long term, more than likely.
I just want to comment on the people who, are essentially, yes, for sure, you want to remove your turf and et cetera. I think at this time, at this point, that being that, some of these rebates will take longer, et cetera, even if they were coming right away, I still urge that you just try to do the 2-day-a-week watering and give that a shot. I think that there's a little bit of, knee-jerk in a certain way. Give it a shot. Give the 2 days a week watering a shot. You might be really surprised. And expend the half hour doing some research on proper watering of lawns shrubs, trees, etc., and also proper fertilization. Because, and it's a shame the gentleman left earlier, because I personally sat down with a gentleman about 3-4 months ago, and he was a testament to my sitting down and explaining to him proper watering and fertilization, proper fertilization. A lot of people assume, I'm going to fertilize, I'm going to water the heck out of it, right? That's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to fertilize just before you water, and water normally. Because what you do is you waste water and wash the nutrients away, and you slowly let that, slowly release. So you can do 2-day-a-week watering. I'm confident you can. Some people are absolutely pessimistic, nothing can happen. And I think it's a shame that someone would go and rip up all their plants and all that in response to, because, hey, 2 days a week watering. It's not that bad. You'll be fine. I think that you can do it. Okay? Just think about it before you do it, because it's not cheap. You guys have big lots. It's a lot of money. And the return in that investment is so long and so out in the future. I would just suggest that you wait out and see if the 2-day-a-week watering works for you. And if it proves out by the end of summer that it just didn't work to you. But remember, you have to fertilize too, though. Water, plants nor human cannot live on water alone. It needs food. Okay? And with proper food and nutrition, you can have a beautiful landscape with 2 days a week.
State legislature passed a bill, I believe, I think I'm correct on that, forbidding that type of restriction.
And we'll go to bat for you, too. We have a good relationship with the city, and I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. They're not. I know there may be some neighbors who are going to be upset. I think it's some people are going to have to accept. Some people are going to, I'm letting it go brown. Just accept it. We got a drought. Live with it through this season. We can get through this, guys. Okay? You don't need to go completely rip out your whole landscapes, all right? I just think you need to just try to use your water more wisely and appropriately irrigate your turf. Okay?
Jerry, we really want to thank you. Are there any more questions from the audience?
This is the end of a 5-year drought, but we really don't know how long it's going to be. Historically, do we have anything to compare this to past droughts? What we might expect the length of this to be?
I don't have an answer to that.
I have heard, and I'll turn it over to Harvey, but I've heard that on average, long-term average, 3 years out of 10 are wet. And I guess the only question is whether you get the right 3 years.
Yeah, we're entering into really uncharted territories from the standpoint that like I was telling you about, that 2013 was the driest year, 2014 was the hottest year, and 2015 is the lowest snowpack that we've seen on record. Odds are that it will rain. The question you're asking is what's next year going to look like? I can't tell you. We know that we're looking at historically, and there has been some changes in the climate, which is probably playing a little bit of part in this. With that being said, the last 3 years, if you look back at a record of over 120 years, the last 3 years are considered some of the driest years that we've seen since the records of 1877. Some speculations say that these consecutive dry years are the driest years we've seen in over 1,000 years. With that being said, they are unprecedented in the sense that we have not seen it. Will we be entering into, hopefully, a normal year next year? God willing. I'm betting on it. I'm hoping that things will get out. I'll tell you this, when we were going into this year, December gave us a surplus around 7 inches in precipitation. We were looking really well going into the water year, and we were speculating that if long as we end up with some average months, we're going to get out of this long-term drought. December was bone dry. In fact, San Francisco had 0 rain for the entire month of January, which is unheard of. February got us slightly below average, and then the last 2 months of March and April have been just dismal. And then, like I said, that's just precipitation. The snowpack, like I said, is like 2% of average. So can it get any worse? I hope not. It doesn't look like that. I hope that we can get out of it. But I'll just tell you this. We have to have a number of years of above average rain to get kind of out of the drought. But we're hoping that the average conditions that we can see this upcoming year and hopefully next at least can get us out of these severe drought conditions and these severe restrictions. Well, I really can't tell you that, but that's a great observation. In fact, we were studying this basically every day. I was looking at the temperature every single day to look at what the forecast would be. High pressure just stood there in the northern Sierras and just stood there. It didn't move. And if you look at satellite pictures, you'll see you're absolutely right. The cold low pressure just kind of went right over Northern California, right over the Colorado, and just slammed the Northeast really well. So yeah, that played a part. We'll see exactly what next year brings. We really will see that.
You talk about El Nino. The ocean is warm. Why didn't we get El Nino? When you have an El Nino, quote, it doesn't always come to California. Texas, their reservoirs are already 75% full. I mean, they got a lot of rain down there. So our El Nino probably went down to Texas. What happened? South.
All right, one last question. This is it, folks. Let's make this one good.
Do you have to report to the state month by month water usage?
Yes.
Correct. 15th of this month, I have to report April's production, and then I also have to do the numbers on consumption. Yes. Correct. That's it, folks. I'm going to go turn it over to the president.
Well, we thank you all for coming, and we hope you've gotten something out of this. It's a very difficult situation, and we all have to live within it. And I want to thank Jerry for doing an excellent job. Thank you too, Harvey and Joel, and the rest of the board. We are adjourned.